All right, this video focuses on the committee system within Congress. You can find this on page 4 in your guided notes packet. So it's important to note because Congress is so big, it's just much easier for them to break up into small groups. So every member of Congress is basically assigned to a small group, which is called a committee. In fact, every member of Congress is assigned to multiple committees because there are fewer senators than reps. Every senator is going to have to serve on more committees, maybe like four, whereas the reps maybe like three, right? But every member of Congress is assigned to committees. You'll notice in your guided notes packet, there's a question that says, like, how does the committee system make Congress more efficient? It makes Congress more efficient because every member of Congress doesn't have to deal with every issue at the same time or have to be an expert about every single issue. So it allows members of Congress to specialize in a given area. Every member of Congress is appointed to a committee by party leaders, and it is sometimes right practical to put a member of Congress onto a committee where like maybe they have previous life experience that makes them already an expert on or in a particular area or on a particular topic, so they're a natural fit on a particular committee, but allows members of Congress to just concentrate their focus in a particular area, and it prevents every member of Congress from having to deal with every single issue at the same time. Also, one of the parts of the guided notes packet is how is the composition of each committee determined? Well, whatever political party has the advantage in that house will determine who has the advantage on every committee. So right now, the Democrats have the advantage in the Senate, and the Republicans have the advantage in the House. So that means on all the committees on the House side, which on this graphic is on the left-hand side, there would be more Republicans than Democrats on all those committees. Also, every one of those committees is led by a chairperson. That chairperson would be from the majority party. On the Senate side, because the Democrats are the majority party there, they have the numerical advantage. There would be more Democrats on all of those committees, and the committees would be led by a Democrat as opposed to like Republicans. So, whatever party has the majority, they control the parties in that particular House of Congress. So, it's another reason why it's important to note who has more of what party in which house. Um, so the committee assignments themselves, besides benefiting Congress because it allows them to specialize, also have the potential to benefit individual members of Congress. So some of those committees are more high profile than others. A high profile committee assignment, like you're put on a really prestigious committee, has the ability to get you more media attention and might make you more able to attract like campaign donors, right? And just get your name out there. Some of those committees aren't nearly as high profile. Oftentimes, the really high profile committee assignments aren't going to go to members of Congress that have been there for a long time. And again, they're appointed there by the leaders of their individual parties. You can request a particular committee to go on, but it's ultimately up to the discretion of your party leaders to assign you to a committee. And sometimes this is a way that the party leaders can maintain loyalty within the party because continued loyalty and voting the way the party wants you to vote um, can enable you to be put on to a high profile committee. Disloyalty to your party might have you put on a committee that maybe is not as relevant or as is important. So these committee assignments can be used as weapons by the party leaders to keep like the members of Congress in line. The other thing it allows you to do as a member of Congress is your committee assignment might allow you to add what's called pork to a bill. Pork is something that you kind of almost like sneak into a bill, which is, most of these bills are super complicated that are made up of like hundreds of pages of text. And it's very kind of easy for you to sneak something into a bill that, might not be all that noticeable. Pork is just the nickname we give to what is often referred to as like wasteful spending items that are thrown into like budget stuff, right? It's something that the rest of the country might look at as being wasteful, but that you kind of put it into a bill because you're on a committee. and like there are people in your state or your district that will benefit. So they'll reward you by continuing to vote for you over and over again. So here's a great example. In 2013, Representative Jim Jordan from Ohio, he's pictured in the bottom right hand corner, he used his position on the Armed Services Committee to add over $430 million worth of new tanks to the Army budget. You can see like the tanks pictured at the bottom of the screen. The ironic thing is the military didn't want the tanks, but Jordan used his position on the Armed Services Committee basically to add this into the budget. It's significant because the U.S. Army didn't want the tanks. So the question is like, why would Jordan then want this added to the budget? Well, it's because the main tank manufacturer for the United States is located in Lima, Ohio, which includes Jim Jordan's like district. So this is a great example of like pork. He used his position on a committee to add something to a bill that the rest of the country might see as wasteful because the military didn't want it. But to Jordan, he's a hero to his constituents because he's keeping this tank factory open, which is a major source of employment in his home district. So this is another way that sort of members of Congress could use these committee assignments to selfishly benefit themselves. In terms of just the individual committees themselves, there aren't a whole lot of questions that'll show up on the AP test about individual committees. The ones that are most likely to appear on the AP test are the ones that are different in the House from the Senate. The Ways and Means Committee exists in the House because it is the chief tax writing committee. By law and tradition, all tax bills have to begin in the House of Representatives. So the tax bills are written by this special committee called the Ways and Means Committee. So if you ever see a question about the Ways and Means Committee, it's the chief tax writing committee. And again, the tax bills start in the House because originally the House was always chosen by the people, but the senators were appointed. It's not that way anymore. But because of that, they thought it would be much better for tax bills to originate in the House because the people were voting for the reps. If the tax bills originated in the Senate, you could then claim no taxation without representation again, right? So even though it's not like that anymore, the tax bills still begin in the House today out of tradition, and that's why the Ways and Means Committee is important. And the Rules Committee, because there are so many more reps than there are senators, there are a lot more rules for debate in the House of Reps, which we'll talk about more in another video. So the Rules Committee is significant because it establishes the ground rules for debate for all of the bills as they move forward. So it's what are the conditions for debate? Like how long can bills to be debated for? What changes can be made to them? That doesn't really exist in the Senate because debate is a lot less structured because there's so many fewer members in the Senate than there are in the House of Reps. So these are generally the only two that have shown up on the AP test, multiple times, like in the past.